If you learn to read the room before you learn to read books, you didn't mature early. You survived early. And psychologists are now discovering that what looked like responsibility was actually your nervous system learning to predict danger. I'll show you exactly how this rewired your brain in the next 20 seconds. Why it matters. Because the skills that kept you safe as a child are now the patterns keeping you stuck as an adult. Hyper-responsibility. You don't just help people, you become their emotional scaffolding, their crisis manager, their unpaid therapist. And when they're fine, you feel useless. Here's what happened. When you were young, being helpful meant being valuable. Being needed meant being kept. So your brain wired a simple equation. Usefulness equals safety. The example. You're at dinner with friends. Someone mentions they're stressed about work. Before they finish the sentence, you're already solving it, offering contacts, restructuring their schedule in your head. They didn't ask for help, but you can't not give it. What it does to your brain. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that handles decision-making, starts outsourcing its energy to other people's problems. Studies show that chronic hyper-responsibility actually shrinks your capacity for self-focus. You become neurologically wired to prioritize others, not because you're kind, because you're scared of being irrelevant. The fix. Next time someone shares a problem, ask yourself, did they request help, or did I just assume they need saving? And here's the part that'll make you uncomfortable. Emotional numbing. You don't avoid feelings because you're strong. You avoid them because you never had the luxury of falling apart. Here's the psychology. Children who experience early ending childhoods often develop what's called affect suppression. That's the clinical term for shoving your emotions into a box and sitting on the lid. Because when you were young, your feelings were an inconvenience, a burden, a luxury the family couldn't afford. So you stopped having them. The example. Someone close to you does something hurtful. You feel the anger rising. And then, like clockwork, it vanishes. Not because you processed it, because your brain tagged it as non-essential and filed it away. You rationalize, you justify, you move on. Except you don't actually move on. What it does to your brain. Emotional suppression doesn't delete feelings. It compresses them. And compressed emotions leak. They show up as chronic fatigue, as inexplicable sadness, as sudden rage over small things. Your amygdala, the brain's emotion center, stays in low-level activation, always humming, never loud enough to address. The fix. Start naming one feeling per day out loud, even if it's to yourself. I feel disappointed. I feel overlooked. No explanation, no fixing, just naming. And if that felt ridiculous to read, you're exactly who needs to do it. People-pleasing as survival. You think you're agreeable. You're not. You're a hostage negotiator talking down your own nervous system. Here's what happened. Growing up, you learned that other people's emotions were more dangerous than your own. A parent's anger, a sibling's breakdown, the unstable adult who couldn't regulate themselves. So you became the regulator, the peacekeeper, the one who made sure everyone else was okay so you could finally exhale. The example. Your friend suggests a restaurant you hate. You say yes immediately. Not because you're easygoing, because the split second of tension from saying no feels like standing on the edge of a cliff. Your body doesn't distinguish between mild social discomfort and threat to survival. So you smile, you agree, you suppress. What it does to your brain. Chronic people-pleasing creates what psychologists call self-betrayal. Every time you ignore your preference to accommodate someone else, your brain registers a tiny conflict. Over time, this erodes your sense of self. You become neurologically unclear about what you actually want, because wanting things became too expensive. The fix. Practice low-stakes disagreement. Actually, I'd prefer Thai food. That's it. No justification, no apology, just a preference. Your nervous system will panic. Let it. Authority issues. You either obey authority figures without question, or you can't stand them at all. There's no middle ground. Here's the psychology. Children who had to grow up fast often had inconsistent or overwhelming authority figures. So they develop one of two patterns: complete submission to avoid conflict, or complete rejection to reclaim control. Both are trauma responses. Neither is freedom. The example. Your boss gives you feedback. If you're the first type, you apologize profusely, even if the feedback was minor. You spiral. You overcorrect. If you're the second type, you bristle. You mentally dismiss them. You think, they don't know what they're talking about. Both reactions skip the same step, actually evaluating the feedback. What it does to your brain. This binary thinking keeps your brain in what's called schema rigidity. You can't process authority as neutral. It's either threatening or invalid. This blocks growth. Because you're not responding to the present moment, you're responding to the authority figure from your past. The fix. When someone in a position of authority speaks, pause. Ask yourself, is this person actually unsafe, or does my body just think they are? Most of the time, it's the second one. Perfectionism as self-protection. You don't have high standards. You have a constant audition for your right to exist. Here's what happened. Mistakes weren't just mistakes when you were growing up. They were proof you weren't good enough. Proof you were the problem. So you learned to be flawless. Not because you wanted to excel, because you wanted to survive. The example. You're working on a project. It's objectively good. But you stay up until 3 a.m. tweaking details no one will notice. Not because you're ambitious, because good enough feels like a tightrope over a canyon. One slip and you're worthless. What it does to your brain. Perfectionism activates the same neural pathways as anxiety. Your brain can't tell the difference between I made a small error and I'm in danger. This keeps your cortisol levels chronically elevated. You're living in a state of low-grade emergency all the time. Studies show perfectionists have higher rates of burnout, depression, and physical illness because your body is not designed to run a marathon every single day. The fix. Intentionally do something poorly. Send the email with a typo. Submit the draft that's 85% done. Watch what happens. Spoiler, nothing catastrophic. Distrust of joy. Good things don't feel good. They feel like the setup for something bad. Here's the psychology. When your childhood was unpredictable, your brain learned a brutal lesson. Joy is a trap. Because every time things felt okay, they fell apart. So you stopped trusting good moments. You started bracing, waiting for the collapse. Psychologists call this anticipatory anxiety. You call it realism. The example. You get good news, a promotion, a compliment, a peaceful afternoon. And within seconds, your mind goes, when's the other shoe dropping? You can't be present in the good moment because you're too busy scanning for the threat. What it does to your brain. This constant vigilance keeps your brain in survival mode. Your parasympathetic nervous system, the one responsible for rest and joy, never gets activated. You're stuck in sympathetic overdrive, which means your body never learns that safety is possible. The fix. When something good happens, say out loud, "This is good. I'm allowed to feel this." Then take 3 deep breaths. Let your body register it. It'll feel awkward. Do it anyway. Independence as isolation. You're proud of not needing anyone. That's not strength. That's unresolved abandonment. Here's what happened. You learned early that depending on people was dangerous. They'd let you down, disappoint you, leave. So you built a fortress. You became self-sufficient, and you told yourself it was empowerment. But psychologists have a different word for it: avoidant attachment. The example: you're struggling, a friend offers help, and your immediate response is, "I'm fine, I've got it." Not because you've got it, because accepting help feels like handing someone a loaded gun. If you need them, they can hurt you, so you stay alone. What it does to your brain: humans are wired for connection. When you chronically isolate, your brain registers it as a threat. Loneliness activates the same neural regions as physical pain. You're not protecting yourself, you're starving yourself, and calling it independence. The fix: ask for help with something small. Can you grab me coffee? Can you proofread this? Start there. Let someone show up for you without a crisis attached. And notice how hard that is. Preemptive rejection. You leave before they can leave you. You end it before it ends. You sabotage the relationship right when it gets good. Here's the psychology. When you grew up expecting loss, your brain developed a strategy: control the ending. If you reject first, you don't have to feel rejected. If you leave first, you don't have to feel abandoned. It's a protection mechanism, and it's ruining your relationships. The example: you're dating someone great, things are going well, too well, and suddenly you start noticing their flaws, magnifying them, creating distance. You pick a fight or ghost or pull away, not because they did anything wrong, because your nervous system is screaming, "Get out before it hurts." What it does to your brain: this pattern reinforces a neural loop. Intimacy equals danger. Every time you preemptively reject, you train your brain that closeness is a threat. You're not protecting your heart, you're teaching it that love isn't safe. The fix: when you feel the urge to run, pause. Say to yourself, "This is a pattern, not a truth." Then stay for 48 more hours. See what happens. Most of the time, the danger is imaginary. Overfunctioning in chaos. You're weirdly calm in a crisis and completely unraveled when things are fine. Here's what happened. Your nervous system was shaped in chaos, so chaos feels like home. When everything's breaking, you're focused, capable, clear. But when life is stable, you don't know what to do with yourself. So you create problems, or you spiral, or you just feel empty. The example: there's a crisis at work. Everyone's panicking. You're the calmest person in the room. You solve it. You're praised. But later, when you're home alone on a quiet evening, you feel anxious, restless. You pick a fight with your partner or doom scroll for 3 hours because peace feels wrong. What it does to your brain: your brain is addicted to adrenaline. It's what you know. Stability registers as wrong because your nervous system never learned to associate safety with normalcy. So you unconsciously seek chaos to feel regulated. The fix: when life is calm, name it. Things are okay right now. Then sit with the discomfort. Let your body learn that peace isn't the calm before the storm, it's just peace. Chronic guilt. You feel guilty for things that aren't your fault, and you feel guilty for existing. Here's the psychology. Children who had to grow up fast often carry what's called existential guilt. You were told, implicitly or explicitly, that you were a burden, that your needs were too much, that you were the reason things were hard. So you learn to apologize for taking up space. The example: you apologize constantly for speaking, for needing, for having an opinion. Someone bumps into you and you say, "Sorry." You're not being polite. You're performing worthiness, trying to justify your existence. What it does to your brain: chronic guilt creates a feedback loop. You feel guilty, so you overcompensate. You overcompensate, so you burn out. You burn out, so you feel guilty for not doing enough. Your brain never gets the message that you're allowed to simply be. The fix. Count how many times you say sorry in one day, then have it. Replace "I'm sorry" with "thank you." Instead of "sorry I'm late," say "thanks for waiting." Watch how it shifts everything. Emotional flashbacks. You overreact to small things, and you don't know why. Here's what happened. When your childhood ends too early, your brain stores unprocessed trauma, not as memories, as sensations. A tone of voice, a facial expression, a feeling of being dismissed. These become triggers, and when they're activated, you're not responding to the present, you're responding to the past. Psychologists call these emotional flashbacks. The example: your partner uses a certain tone, slightly annoyed, slightly dismissive, and suddenly you're flooded. You're furious or shut down or crying. They're confused. It wasn't that serious. But to your nervous system, it was. Because that tone is connected to a moment when you were small and powerless. What it does to your brain. Emotional flashbacks hijack your amygdala. Your thinking brain goes offline. You're in pure survival mode. This is why you can't just calm down. Your body believes it's back in the original moment of threat. The fix. When you're triggered, ground yourself. Name 5 things you can see, 4 you can touch, 3 you can hear. This tells your brain, you're here, you're not there, you're safe. Then address the present moment, not the past. Fear of being a burden. You'd rather suffer alone than inconvenience someone, even someone who loves you. Here's the psychology. If you grew up feeling like your needs were too much, you learned to shrink them, to hide them, to handle everything alone. Not because you're independent, because you were taught that needing support makes you unlovable. The example: you're sick, really sick, but you don't tell anyone. You don't ask for help. You push through. Because asking feels like admitting you're weak, like proving you're too much. So you suffer quietly and call it strength. What it does to your brain. This belief keeps you in isolation. Your brain never learns that you can need someone and still be valued, that love isn't transactional, that you don't have to earn the right to be cared for. The fix. Tell someone you trust about something you're struggling with, not a crisis, just something hard. Then let them respond. You'll be shocked how much people want to show up for you if you let them. Difficulty relaxing. Rest feels wrong, like you're forgetting something. Here's what happened. When you had to be the adult as a child, your brain never learned how to turn off. Relaxation wasn't an option. There was always something to manage, someone to take care of, a problem to solve. So now, even when there's nothing urgent, your body stays alert. The example: you finally have a free weekend. No plans, no obligations. You should feel relieved. Instead, you feel anxious. You fill the time with tasks, errands, projects, anything to avoid the discomfort of doing nothing. What it does to your brain. Your nervous system is stuck in on mode. Your cortisol levels don't drop. Your body doesn't restore. Over time, this leads to burnout, adrenal fatigue, and chronic health issues. You're running a system that was never designed to run non-stop. The fix. Schedule rest like an appointment. 15 minutes of doing absolutely nothing. No phone, no productivity, just existing. Your brain will resist. That's how you know it's working.